Welcome to another edition of the Statecraft video series. Today I'm joined by RUSI research fellow Louise Marie-Hurel to discuss Brazil's approach to cyberstatecraft. So Louise, what are Brazil's international cybersecurity priorities?
Brazil's international cyber policy priorities must be understood within the broader context of its foreign policy objectives and narrative, rather than as a separate niche area of international engagement. And against this backdrop, Brazil's cyber policy priorities can be framed by at least three elements. Firstly, balancing and hedging. As a strategy for navigating a multipolar world, hedging involves maintaining open channels of communication with all major players, and Brazil has adeptly used balancing and hedging as a conciliatory tool for its international cyber negotiations. This has been defined in its approach to the United Nations Open-Ended Working Group on Cybersecurity, which is a key forum for advancing the understanding of responsible state behavior in cyberspace. The second element is advancing the understanding of international law in cyberspace. So in 2021, Brazil joined 15 other countries in publishing national contributions on how international law applies to cyberspace. Now that number has grown to 32 countries and regional organizations, but Brazil does not consider its 2021 position as fixed, but rather as part of an evolving process to refine its interpretation of international law in cyberspace. Thirdly, it's all about bridging the gap. So aligning cybersecurity and development is a key element for Brazil. So Brazil has consistently emphasized the importance of ensuring that international cybersecurity discussions are not detached from development priorities. Over the years, it has advocated for greater representation of developing countries in these debates. And this is not exclusive to cyber discussions, but definitely something that is further highlighted in this particular area.
And are there any policies or initiatives that you can tell us about that illustrate Brazil's approach to cyberstatecraft?
There are many possible angles to assess Brazil's approach to cyberstatecraft. However, I would highlight that a key feature underpinning and enabling Brazil's cyberstatecraft has been the institutionalization of cybersecurity as a government-wide concern in the past decade. The first example of this is the National Cybersecurity Strategy. So in February 2020, Brazil approved its first national cybersecurity strategy, also called eCyber. The document established the main cybersecurity actions to be carried out by the government, both nationally and internationally, between 2020 and 2023. However, this is not the government's first effort towards establishing guiding principles, competencies, and objectives for national cybersecurity. Since the mid-2000s, Brazil has gradually introduced the term into its political, strategic vocabulary throughout the publication of various documents. Other sectors such as the regulatory agency, the telecoms agency, and the Ministry of Communications have published sectoral guidelines and policies as well as digital transformation strategies, including cybersecurity as a key topic and a transversal topic to this particular area. Now, Brazil is currently reviewing and preparing for the second iteration of its national cybersecurity strategy. The next example is the National Cybersecurity Policy, which is different, and the National Cybersecurity Committee. Despite the years of policy developments, these documents, and the strategy in particular, were highly criticized for not being implementable. So in December 2023, the document signed by the government was actually a decree establishing the National Cybersecurity Policy, which sets out key principles for Brazil's cybersecurity, and a National Cybersecurity Committee, a multi-stakeholder body under the presidency tasked with the responsibility to review the current policies, such as the National Cybersecurity Strategy, as well as provide strategic guidance to cybersecurity governance domestically in themes such as the structure of the National Cybersecurity Agency, which is being discussed, and Brazil's international engagements, which includes its foreign policy as well as international cooperation.
And so final question, is there anything unique about Brazil's approach to cyberstatecraft?
Well, the Snowden revelations and the discovery that former President Dilma Rousseff was actually being spied on by the US still shapes policy thinking in Brazil, despite it now being over 10 years ago. Because of this, Brazil has emphasized that cybersecurity is particularly important for the protection of democracy and minimizing electoral interference. And that is something that Brazil has advocated for in the UN Open-Ended Working Group on Cybersecurity.